Hello. Hi. Um, so I just wanted to say that we're doing a new schedule now. So it used to be a more of a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. Well, that would be like what it was supposed to be, and then we went for a Friday only schedule. That didn't seem to be working out because I got sick. So that was fun. I wouldn't even say it was sickness. It was just more of me being an idiot and it being too hot. So yeah. Anyways, so new schedule style Monday and Friday. Um. Not this won't be part of the. Yeah. This will probably be uploaded on a Monday just to solidify that. And to be honest, if anything, it might be a Friday upload, the podcasts. That'll just be up to you guys and to Ender. Whenever he hears this, he'll probably listen to it at least once. He likes to do that. Watch at least the videos that we put out once to make sure that everything's nice and cheeky breaky about it. So Monday and Friday is the upload schedule. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to that. Hopefully it's like one upload from me being the podcast, and then the other upload is either a dual upload, as in me and Ender, or an Ender upload. If not, I'll be more than happy just to fill the void. On the days that there's not any. Probably be a speed art, probably not another podcast. The podcast will be a 1 week thing. That way, it'd be good. Be pretty nice. So, yeah. Oh, man. Nose. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So, time for part two of the actual podcast thing that I was doing for world building. So, last time we kind of left off on more of on lore basics, like for creatures and stuff. So I'm just gonna just hop into it like as if you watched or listened to most, if not all, of the basic stuff from last time. I mean, the only thing that you really needed to know was from the last one is the world, its natural state, and its current state. That's all you actually need to know. If you have those, then this will make a little more sense if you know those. But if not, it might just be good on its own. Hopefully it is. So, this time I actually do have a drink, so take a sip to clean up my throat a little. Alright, so inhabitants. So last time I made up like these onion people, who basically are like little dudes who don't know what are going on. They're kind of like cattle. They just plant themselves into the dirt during the day and they do stuff at night. That's basically it. The top of their heads, which look like leaves, or it could be just the straight up leek part, like an onion. A green onion. I think I've designed them with leaves. I don't remember. Um, that was edible, but the white body of it, which is its face and its lower body and its arms, aren't edible, and they needed to live near water. So that's an example of an inhabitant. That creature lives in the world. If it lives in the world and only in that world that you made, that's an inhabitant. It lives upon that world. So it's like how planet Vegeta in Dragon Ball hosted the Saiyans. The Saiyans lived on Vegeta. That was the main inhabitants. But after Frieza blew it up because Beerus is like, yeah, you could do that. No more Saiyans, basically, except for the ones who were off planet. Um, yeah, so that's the thing that kind of makes a little more sense if you know what I'm talking about. That's some Dragon Ball Z lore. But yeah, so basically the planet's inhabitants are important. Like your most common world for fantasy usually has like elves, giants, and humans as the main three things. Usually, like humanoid races tend to be the main inhabitants, besides like things like mind flayers, eyes of the beholder, basic D&D stuff, mythological stuff, whatever you want to call it. So like having those in mind is very important, and they are actually justified for living in the world. You have to make sure like they actually live appropriately in the area, because if not, they're not going to make sense. You can't have a lava demon living in an ice place. It doesn't make sense. You can't have a lava demon living in the desert. I mean, you can, but technically the floor would literally turn to glass over time. And it makes the ground sharp. Like, it makes sense if that's where it lives. Like, if that's a layer of it, that makes sense. But if it just like roams the overworld, it doesn't make sense. It would make sense if it lived like in a glass cave that it made itself. So like your inhabitants do need to make sense in their environments. So yeah. It's like, let's go with the humanoid stuff right now. So like humanoid stuff, like it needs to be believable. Like let's make some characters now. I don't know what I'll be drawing for the intro of this, or if I'm going to be drawing something for this at all. So let's go with let's make some elves. Let's make an elven race. Yeah, we'll just stick to the same old humanoid race. Like they look humanoid, so like elves, people, whatever you want to do. Let's say they have, you know what? I know a few anime people, so let's go with the whole like Neko ear things. Like they have cat ears, and they don't have people ears. Let's just go with that. So like whenever people think cat ears, they usually think of like the common house cat or Persian cat ears. So we'll go with those. And let's just say they just have the ears and a feline tail. That depends on like their hair color and eye color. Let's go with that. Like their tail, like the fur of it, changes based off of the hair and eye color. So if like, let's go with yellow eyes, but they have naturally gray hair, the tail will be fluffy. And it'd be a fluffy tail. Let's go with that. Let's make that our little basic race. So now we have like this idea of what the people look like. So let's say the next thing we want to do is give them a unique ability. Well, the first thing we want to do is like, oh, they're kind of like cat people. Let's give them good hearing and good vision, especially nighttime vision, low light vision. That makes sense, right? Hopefully it does. But one thing that wouldn't make sense is if we gave them claws. Like, if they can just extend out their nails and stuff. That doesn't really make sense. I mean, it does for them being cat people, but they're humanoid. They're human. They're mainly human. The only thing we said we're giving them is, in their feline traits, is more of their hair and tail. I mean, the ears and the tail. And the tail is linked to the eyes and the hair. So that means the hair color and eye color are linked to the ear color and the tail's attributes, which means the eyes could have impact, do have something attached to them. They are technically connected to the feline traits. Claws and such wouldn't make that much sense, because it just doesn't work out with what we have already. But if we gave them more, like if we changed like how their hands and their feet are, like how they are, then it would make sense to actually implement claws and such. Like if we done more like let's do like a satyr reference. Is that the name of them? The goat people? The half goat people? The guys that are usually playing lyres and such in the woods? I forget. But let's go with those. Let's say those are them. Well, if we do that, like give them their lower body of a cat as well, more feline lower body, it would make sense, like, to maybe change it for the forearms to the fist a little bit as well. So we can actually build up from there to giving them retractable claws, or just having the feet have claws, and having like their legs actually be a little bit weaker than their forearms and such. Like, because or just having them having a better sense of kinetic movement over people, which means, like, if anyone who doesn't know what kinetic movement is, it's why a cat usually lands on its feet. I use usually there because, like, cats don't always land on their feet. If you have a cat, you know what I'm talking about. You can literally pick them up and turn them around and drop them, and they won't always land on their feet. The reason why is I know that is because my cat loves to stand on my desk. I just pick him up, throw him on his pillow. He doesn't always land on his feet. It's nothing really. It's a big pillow, so cat's fine. So, yeah, so cats don't land on their feet. They just have good kinetic sense. So we'll add that to our feline race. So with those three things, it's actually pretty viable. Like, their lower body gives them a more agile movement, possibly silent if they don't wear any boots or anything. They have a tail, which can be a crippling weakness due to cat tails being very weak most of the time. We have a chance for paws on them due to us changing how their legs are. We have cat ears, cat eyes, and the color and such change depending on certain attributes, and we got a cat race now. Cool. So they live. Let's go with actual cats now. That depending on like how cats are now, some cats are best equipped for more average temperatures. So like probably inland areas like I'm just gonna say like a basic area like where I was from, the Midwest, where it can be extremely hot and then extremely cold, but it has this pretty average temperature. That could work out. They could possibly live there. This extreme heat and extreme cold produces like unique situations for them, but it's not that much of a difference that will impede them and their growth in civilization and other things. So like they become or we could say they're very nomadic, where they like birds, they travel to a certain area based off of the temperature for the seasons. Like that can work out too. But like I'm just gonna take something from it was I want to say it was Sub-Zero who said this, but it's like nomadic tribes don't really prosper, or it was Hizashi who said that. But nomadic people don't really prosper. That could make sense for them because they don't really have a set home. They just go to a set area. So like over time, like they're just known as this nomadic group of people. Or if your time progresses where it's like modern, they have air conditioning and they no longer have the need to be nomadic, so they intermingle with in towns and such. So that could be a thing. So now we got humanoid stuff out of the way, let's go with monsters. I've touched on this earlier, a lava demon. Where to start? Like, first of all, snowy area doesn't make sense. You want something that fits in. Let's go with Don't Starve and Don't Starve together for this one. Deerclops. He shows up in winter. It makes sense. It's a giant, monstrous cyclops deer. And he prepares you for spring by his eyeball, being a very useful ingredient for making the eyebrow. It makes sense that he shows up in winter. He's very furry. It makes sense for him to exist in the winter. Also, winter has deers and bucks, and they tend to lose their horns during winter as well, if I remember correctly. And Yeah, so so it makes sense for area and temperature to matter. So this lava demon thing, this we'll just call it a flame sprite or a lava sprite. We'll go with those. Actually, a lava sprite. This creature, this monster, let's say, would have to be able to. Well, I said it wherever it passes over becomes glass if it's in a sandy area. So that makes sense where it walks. It either crawls, walks, slides, what have you. It could be a slimy demon, whatever you want to call it. So it traversing on the ground is essential. So let's just say it's a quadrupedal beast, and it's not a hellhound, but let's make it like a cat in a way. I'm just full of cats today. Oh man. So let's make it a hellish cat. There we go. I don't know if a hell cat actually exists already, but let's make one. So let's say they live in the desert. They make glass caves by like swirling around and into the dirt, the sand, and due to their forming this oozy glass that is kind of like dripping down, such their caves tend to be have more stalactites and stalagmites in there that are made of glass, as more of like little support beams. So like any foul movement can send it crumbling down, making it a very risky environment. And there tend to be glass shards all over the place due to it trying to carve out a location. So like, let's put it that way. And let's say these cat creatures, they can change their ambient temperature. So like, let's go with a little bit of thermodynamics on it. So like, if it's like heating up, if you're within like 10 meters, because let's go with D&D for a moment. If you're within 10 meters, you can actually get really freaking hot. And if you're within 5 meters, your clothes can actually catch fire. There's like let's say 2% chance. And if you're wet, water tends to evaporate or it can boil. Let's go with that as well. So it makes it actually a pretty dangerous thing to be around. It makes it make sense for ranged combat. But it being lava, you can't really use, arrows. You can't really do that. But doing it to being lava, which tends to be very rocky. Ugh, man, I have no idea where that yawn came from. But due to it being lava tends to be more rockish and more of a sludge, like, because lava and magma are made out of rock. It's just molten rock, basically. Let's actually say that it actually arrows don't really have much effect due to it having a more rockish shell, all because of that. But it can also seep down if need be. Just a bunch of stuff that makes sense for it. Like, it living in the desert wouldn't be too bad because it's an area of heat. But having it live in a mountainous region also makes sense, because the mountains tend to have magma and such. Because mountains equal like areas with lava, volcano, so that sort of stuff. So I figured that would make the most sense for that. Next thing I would probably say would be, let's go back to animals once more. What was that? Okay, that was weird. Let's go with a new animal. Let's make a chimera. Instead of like, your average chimera, which is like 3 animals like snake, goat, lion, something like that. Let's go with snake, chameleon, lizard. All reptile. So it has camouflage ability. It's multi-legged and it can slither. So like, it could almost be like a naga in a way, or a gorgon. except minus the humanoid bits. So with that in mind, like, it doesn't seem to be much. It's just a snake that camouflages that can also climb on walls. Nothing too much. Pretty basic. It lives in warm environments. Simple. It tends to be away during winter. Simple. Animals don't take much. It's just like you just make the most sense of them and like make them work. Like a multi-legged snake-esque creature that can camouflage doesn't seem far-fetched at all. Like, it's something that you would kind of see in like heck, you would actually probably would see that in D&D if a dungeon master is like thinking of making their own stuff. Like, it's completely viable. It's not far-fetched at all. It's like you might actually see one. It's pretty average. But saying like, let's pretend it's human size, that would be far-fetched. And it wouldn't make too much sense. But if we make them average snake size, like cobra size, yeah, that'll be fine. Python size, yeah, that's cool. Perfect. And let's say the meat is edible, except near certain organs, like regular animals, perfectly fine. And the skin can be harvested for, let's say boots, the common appliance of their scales and like their skin is most commonly used in boots and as leathers, like belt, like a snakeskin belt, snakeskin hat, like kind of like that. Like, it's not, animals don't really take too much. It's more of a, how are they and how do they act in their natural environment? How mundane are they? And how much of a threat are they? Like, animals shouldn't be too threatening, to be honest, because like animals are pretty chill and lax. I mean, seriously. Like, take lions, bears, and such. Like, yeah, they're known for killing people. They have done so in the past, but like they're actually pretty chill on their own. So like, you gotta actually take actual nature into account as well. So yeah, so that's how animals would be. And I'll go into one more thing because this seems like it's a little long now. Let's actually go with like other things, like other inhabitants. So like, let's go with spirits and ghosts. Ooh, creepy stuff, undead, what have you. As long as they make sense in their current environment and why they should exist, it's fine. I mean, you can make a ghost, have it have physical appearance, but have it have a non-physical kinetic area. So like, if you try punching it, you won't hurt it. It tries punching you, it can't hurt you. It cannot interact with doors and such. Like, that makes sense. But if you have this non-kinetic, this non-physical thing, this non-textile, there we go, that's the word I was looking for. This non-textile apparition being able to interact with things via more of a telekinesis, it fits more of a poltergeist. Like the description for poltergeist, a malevolent, most commonly malevolent spirit or force that acts upon things in a physical way, mostly in malice or harm and whatnot. So like, that makes sense, having a apparition take on a textile form, but having it not unable to interact in a textile way doesn't make sense. You're giving something a physical form, as in you can touch it, you can push it, you can punch it, but it cannot punch you or open a door. Doesn't make sense. So if you're taking like undead into account and spirits and such, you just need to be aware of like average things, like things on those level, what people call astral planes, or afterlife, etc., how those actually act. You could just literally find all this stuff on the internet on how, like, what kind of spirit does this or what kind of spirit does that. You can actually find it on the internet pretty simple with just a Google search. I mean, it doesn't take that much. So that's actually very important. Like, if you're making a spirit or an undead enemy of some sort, put a little research into it, because if it's based off of something that's very important, like, let's take a vampire, for example. Vampires are actually freaking overpowered, but pop culture will tell you otherwise, because vampires done in sunlight. Oh no, the sun, I'm melting away. That's actually a lie. Vampires do not die in sunlight. They actually merely lose their powers in sunlight. That's all it is. They don't die. The sun just hinders them. It makes them vulnerable. That's all sunlight does. It's all it does. It doesn't hurt them in any way, except for making them vulnerable. It takes away their powers. That's it. Vampires are actually very powerful beings. And it's just like the whole, like, let's go with Elder Scrolls, because I like referencing them. I mean, last time I made a huge reference to them. Vampires in Elder Scrolls actually take from more or less of how actual vampires should be, being powerful undead spirits or beings who lose more or less lose their abilities in the sun, because you actually take a health penalty and a stamina penalty and a magicka penalty in the Elder Scrolls games, where you cannot regenerate magicka, stamina, or health naturally while in sunlight. And you lose a percentage of your health, stamina, and magicka in sunlight as well. I think it's actually a set number, like 25, really, but I'm just saying percentage because it makes more sense, because level scaling. But yeah, so it's like, it makes sense. Like, they can still attack. They're not that weak. They're actually very powerful. And to be honest, I say, like, Elder Scrolls has done a good job in, like, actual vampires, because their vampires do make a lot of sense. Like, if you look at Castlevania, like, Castlevania has what vampires actually are. Like, seriously, you gotta decapitate them, pierce their heart. That's an actual thing with how vampires are in actual history and such. Like, there's just like, if you want to find, like, how actually vampires are, you would want to, like, look into, like, a video, like, why Castlevania was right about vampires, or what they did right about Dracula, because some people will actually go the extra mile to explain, like, who even defined that as being a trait and all, and it's really good. Like, it's very interesting. Like, if I remember, Gaijin Goomba has one for Castlevania vampire, like, and how they're actually pretty darn accurate, if I remember correctly. If not, it was this other person that does lore and such. But, like, vampires are freaking amazing. Like, they're not just this weaklings that die in sunlight, have a deficiency and intolerance for garlic and pumpkins, if you're one of those Wizards of Waverly Place. Is that the name of that show? I don't remember. If you're one of those fans. But yeah, so, like, vampires are actually pretty amazing. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and conclude this now, because it looks like I'm about at 30 minutes now, and I mean, I usually go for 2 hours, but this is YouTube. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I mean, you'll probably find another video on lore building. Heck, maybe even after this, you can go find out how vampires are, how they actually are, and how freaking awesome vampires are. On a different video that's probably not linked to this channel at all. I might actually do something related to vampires for Halloween. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, I don't even know why I said that. But yeah, I might actually do something like, for undead stuff, I might actually make a whole video for that. around Halloween, steal Ender's upload slot if he's all right with that. But yeah, so um, hopefully you guys have a good one, and this should be uploaded on either the I think it's the 14th this Monday. This was being recorded on October 11th. If anyone's wondering, it took a while to actually like go on my way to make another one because there was a lot going on, and like I said, um last Friday, which Ender uploaded, I think he uploaded on Wednesday. But the Friday before last, the what is it called? War Thunder upload he made. I got really basically I got ill, like very ill, and it was just for the afternoon. I couldn't finish the upload. After I got home from work, I had to go sleep. So, um, yeah, it was really bad. I felt like crap. I didn't want to upload it then. I wanted to talk to Ender about upload schedule and stuff. So yeah, I mean, heck, if you guys want me to continue, well, I mean, I am finishing this trilogy no matter what. But if you guys want like other podcast stuff, like want me to talk about other things, just give me a little comment. There is a Pokemon one that I'm wanting to do. It will blow your minds. And yeah, hopefully everything turns out good. So hopefully you all have a good one, and hopefully we'll see you next time. So yeah, bye.